The City of Rockport always wants public participation and lists the ways to participate under the agenda item, Citizens to be Heard. They are speaking at Citizens to be Heard, committing your thoughts to writing, which will be attached to the minutes of the meeting, and speaking at agenda items you have indicated on a speaker's card. Attendees speaking during commission deliberations is not one of the ways. The Charter Review Commission is now in session. Call the roll. Ward 1.
Here.
Ward 2.
Here.
You can't be in order, can you?
No.
Ward 3.
Here.
Ward 4.
Finally here.
At large here. The commission has a quorum. Citizens to be heard. I have one card from Ms. Rutledge.
Thank you, Chair. I have two items I'm speaking on tonight. This one and the Charter Section Review, Section 5, or number 5. Can I give you my handouts now?
Sure.
Thank you. And then I'll have one for the City Secretary as well. This is for everyone.
Thank you.
I was really concerned about last week's Charter Review Commission meeting. During this meeting, you voted without any question to delete almost all of our financial transparency and our requirements for our budget. Ms. Amaya tried to speak during this portion, and she was cut off by the city manager, who said he was confused about going through the items section by section, and he wanted each one of you to go through them individually, the whole Section 7, without deliberation between you. So I'm very concerned that this happened without procedure. I'm concerned about the method in which it happened. When Mr. Webb tried to intervene and agree with some things that were being said, the city manager cut him off. I have looked back at the video and she said, wait a minute, you have to each give your comments all at once. Now, you have no idea what you have approved on the financial municipal finance. I do. I testified to that last week. I do because I have attended most of the budget and taxation meetings for the last 2 years, either remotely or in person. And we've had serious problems in the city of Rockport with financial transparency. And I cannot even get a copy of the tax rate calculation worksheet or the budget detail. I've asked for it and I get the runaround. I get told to submit a public information request. The budget by detail was not put in the agenda packet until the last day when the entire budget was passed. This budget was passed, adopted on a one-page fund balance, which gives the city manager and the financial director discretion to move money around wherever they want. Maybe there's some limitations, but you deleted it in the financial municipal finance section of the charter. This charter is here to protect taxpayers. You also deleted any limitation on notes. We have had tax notes passed without the consent of voters. The finance director last week told you she didn't know what that language was, but that's a lie. And that's a lie because I asked about it last year when our city passed $8.1 million. I said, what's this in the charter? You have to repay it in 1 year. You're passing 7-year tax notes. You just deleted all of our protection. Please listen to your citizens. I sent you this on email. Do not approve this section tonight until you look at your email and listen to me in my next.
Some notes tonight.
Don't engage. Proceed. You want to answer?
Next item, discussion and possible actions on approval of Charter Review Commission meeting minutes of December 7th, 2022.
So moved.
Okay, that was quick.
I mean, we got them, so I've already reviewed them, so I'll make a motion, we approve them.
That's fine. I have a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
No.
I have a second.
I know you don't.
Alan?
Discussion?
After we get a second.
After you
there's
get a second, you have
motion
a
on the table.
discussion.
Okay.
I'm lost now. What have you
He
done?
made
You
a
have to have a
motion.
first and a second before you can open discussion.
Okay.
I had the first, do we have a second, so we can have a discussion?
I'm waiting on the second on his motion to approve.
I second the motion
Oh, I'm
to
sorry, I
approve
thought
the
you
minutes.
approved. You
No.
did that.
Now we can have
I
discussion.
second the motion to approve the minutes.
I have a motion,
Discussion now?
yes.
I've read the minutes also, and we okayed a lot of stuff that I don't agree with, that I want to talk about, and we're scheduled to talk about 1 through 12 tonight, and I want to talk about those, so the minutes are what we did last week, but I want to change things, so what do we do here?
Approve the
So if
minutes
the
so we
minutes
can
are
move on.
correct, you need to approve them. If you want to change things that you did last week, you'll need to discuss those as they come up, item by item. The minutes are not changed because you change it today.
Okay.
The minutes are what happened.
Okay? You have a second?
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Minutes are approved. Discussion and possible action on previous items voted for, recommended changes in Articles 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12 of the charter.
Mr. Chairman, I have taken the liberty to write down
This is section 5, this is item 5, do I get citizens be heard?
taken the liberty to have written up and handed out the items that I wish to speak about, and check on.
I'm sorry, this is item 5. We'll have citizens to be heard first.
Item 5.
Thank you, City Manager. I'm sorry I had to step out of the room. I'm going to follow up on my comments that I made earlier. I am opposed to the changes in the section called petitions. This city has shown their willingness to ignore petitions from citizens, and we need that protection. We don't have the money to sue the city every time they ignore our petitions. I'm wondering if they did that so that they can pass tax notes without any issues. So I'm very, very concerned about that. On financial transparency, the municipal finance, I have in front of me a printout of the City of Portland's charter regarding financial procedures. It's very detailed. You deleted any detail that we had, which was sort of little already, and the words changed. And words have meaning, and they have power, and they have effect. And the changes that were made watered down what transparency we will have in the future if this is passed. Now, Mr. Wagnon's an attorney. He's an attorney. She's highly trained by the Texas Municipal League. You might be too, but the other of you are not. You had no idea what you passed last week. I'm recommending, and I don't want to slow this process up, believe me. We all want to go on with our life. I'm recommending that you do your due diligence now, because this will get voted down over this issue. And look up some financial documents that are required in the City of Portland Charter. I'm going to read some of them. Budget contents, a budget message, a consolidated statement of revenues and expenditures for all funds, an analysis of property valuations, an analysis of the tax rate, tax levies and tax collections for the preceding 2 years, general fund resources, and other fund resources. Y'all deleted that last week. Summary of proposed expenditures by fund and department, very important. You deleted that. Including actual expenditures for the last completed fiscal year and the amounts for the current year and the proposed amounts for the upcoming year. This is straight out of their charter. Summary of proposed revenues by fund, including actual revenues of the last completed fiscal year, estimated revenues for the current fiscal year, and proposed revenues for the ensuing budget year. Summary of full-time equivalent positions. A revenue of expense statement for all types of bonds. That includes revenue bonds. I've had a heck of a time getting revenue bonds information because I don't want to disclose how much debt we're in. A description of all bond issues outstanding, showing the rate of interest, the date of issue, maturity date, call date, and if any, the amount authorized, amount issued, and amount outstanding. A schedule of requirements for the principal and interest on each issue of bonds. This is the city of Portland. Their standards are high. Our financial director came from the city of Portland. If you look at the city website and you look at what they actually passed and adopted as the budget, because you deleted 3 parts of the budget in the charter review last week. It's 1 page. Fund balance means nothing to us. It means nothing. There's no oversight. There's no checks and balances. This is dangerous. Planning and zoning section, that is very dangerous. You all are going to get this voted down. I'm warning you if you don't get it right here. Thank you.
Now? Mr. Chairman, as you can tell, I'm very proud that I have written up these things that I would like us to talk about. And it's in a numerical order, and perhaps other members that would like to speak about something as we get to that section, we could bring that up. Will that work?
Yeah.
Section 103, can you bring section 103 up, please? What I see that 103 says is that in accordance with state law, all citizens must agree to be annexed before the city can have to annex, and this takes additional powers away from the citizen if we don't abide by that law. Mr. Ortiz, I believe you said that that's a state law, that now the Texas state law says that they have to have permission to annex.
There's other limited exceptions to it, but generally speaking, that's correct.
Thank you.
Is there any other discussion?
Are you proposing any changes to?
Yes, I make a motion that we add to this that any citizens in a proposed annexation have to agree before the city can annex that property.
And is there an issue with it already saying that it be done in accordance with state law?
Is that if the law were to change?
I suppose.
Always change.
So if the state law were to change, then the city charter would, you still want the city charter to state that the citizens would have the consent?
Yes, I don't see the state law changing from that, but we can add that to make sure. Is that possible?
You can add what you want to add. What I'm saying is that its compliance with state law is already included in the portion that remains.
Okay, that answers my question. I'm good with 103. Thank you. Yes, withdrawn. Thank you. 104.
That's on 14.
Any discussion on section 1.04?
If I ever find it, what page?
14.
Mr. Chair, if I can comment on 1.04.
Yes, Mr. Rodriguez.
So the last time that, at last week's meeting, we had a discussion about, disannexation, and I provided that number 5 based on what I believe is legally defensible, in order to allow for disannexation of the property if people petition and therefore to go without a vote. I added two, if you see at the very bottom there of number 5, as to whether that would be by a majority vote or a supermajority vote is, I looked up for there to be some discussion by y'all on that.
This is what he added. My notes will have construction of language, okay.
I would like to recommend that we insert by a majority vote, council persons for number 5. You gave us an option, that would be my proposal.
So your proposal is to have the language as, understood. Your language is to have the language as read, but would be a majority vote,
Yeah,
and period at the end of that.
right.
Yes, okay. Understood. And how about, language in number 4?
It doesn't say much unless I go read all.
That was
I
my
mean,
question,
the
what
same
does
problem
all
we had
that mean?
before.
That was my question.
The sections, as stated in there, are treating a petition for disannexation in the same manner a referendum is treated.
Any other petition.
Okay. Satisfied with that one?
All right, I'm sorry, I said referendum, I meant initiative.
I think somebody has their paper on their microphone, they're not gonna be able to hear that.
The next one is 311.
Well, I think we're still on number 104 here.
I believe that was explained to my satisfaction.
This is a provision that has not previously been voted upon.
And there is a first motion to use the words majority vote in number 5.
So as written, we would be lining out that last line of 5.
Let me go back and explain.
Yeah.
103 has been the subject of discussion over several commission meetings. 1.03 currently consists of number 1, 2, and 3 up there. Y'all have not voted to make a change. These are the two the addition of number 4 and 5 are items that I've come back to with additional language based on comments received. If y'all want to make a change to 104, we do need a motion in a second and a vote in order to accommodate that.
You're correct. That was, I asked you to come back with language, and you have.
Yes, sir. So this needs to be, before we move on to another item, either 103 needs to be left alone, no changes, or we need to provide changes to 103. I'm sorry, 104, excuse me.
I will move that section 104 be amended as proposed, except that in section 5, it will say by majority vote instead of majority vote or vote of at least 4 council persons.
I will second that.
I have a motion and a second to adopt those. Is, all those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. All those opposed say no. Unanimous.
Section 7.03, unless anyone has something between section,
So 7.03, let me go through the changes that I made in that. It was, Commissioner Amaya wanted some additional information inserted in there regarding the posting of the draft budgets, on the city's website. And, you will see that in item number 2, it provides for posting on the website until a budget has been finally adopted. There didn't seem to be much point in having a draft budget if one has already been adopted. And to reduce, I mean, that really kind of goes to reduce confusion amongst the citizens as well. Item 3D also provides for the final budget to be posted on the city's internet website for at least a year. So these were, the remainder of the changes were all changes that y'all were fine with last week, but this is the additional language to address the concerns of Commissioner Amaya.
Discussion.
And I'm sorry, Commissioner Webb, I didn't mean to
sorry,
overstep you on that.
Is there any discussion? We have a motion?
Do we need to mention like typos or
Where's-
anything at this point, or
where's,
that stuff all
let's-
gets?
look at 703.
Where's the typo? And I can make this.
703, number 2, third line, and posted on the city's internet website until
I
budget
will make that change.
4 has been. Gotcha. Okay.
Satisfied with that? Do we need to make a motion, or?
We need 7, this provision has not been adopted by the commission yet.
The internet website lines that I asked for are added, and we discussed the drafts in length, and like I'm good with how this is written. So I would like to make a motion to accept 7.03 as written.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to leave 7.3,
And I will make the Scrivener's error change in there, if that's all right.
Thank you.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, say no.
311, section 2.
What section? I'm sorry.
Page 22.
This is a section y'all have voted on already, 3.11.
Does anyone want to make any changes?
Did we put in that this is going to be on the website?
Final ordinances in a different section, I think in a different section, are placed on the city's website. if you look at, Commissioner Webb, if you look at 3.13, the addition in subsection 2 provides that ordinances and amendments will be posted on the city's internet website for at least 1 year unless earlier codified into the code of ordinances.
I agree with that one. I'm still. Number 6, I have in my note that the add citizens present shall have the right to speak on the agenda or ask for clarification.
What section, I'm sorry?
3116. Have we already made the allowance to have members speak on each item? Is this covered here? Each agenda item?
Yes, sir, you make that change in, if you give me 1 second here.
Yeah, in number 4, it says, interested persons shall have a reasonable opportunity to be heard. Was there something you wanted to elaborate on that, Doug?
Just want to make sure it was in there.
It's in there, and then I heard what you were saying about the websites. So in number 5, it says published once in its entirety or summary form after adoption in a newspaper designated as the official newspaper of the city. Do we want to update that verbiage? Is that what you're asking for?
Yes.
To the city website, or?
Add to that. I want everything added to the city website.
That's all here too.
Commissioner Webb,
Yes.
3.10 provides for the citizens' comments and then an opportunity for prior to each deliberation on agenda items.
Yeah. It's just like antiquated verbiage in number 5. 311 number 5. At the end where it's just saying
The
to publish
newspaper.
it. In some of the other sections, we changed it in accordance with state law, but you're wanting the city website?
Yes.
Okay.
Mr. Rodriguez, the language in number 5 that says it's supposed to be published in the official newspaper of the city, is that not a state law requirement?
It is for ordinances, for certain ordinances that require the adoption, the imposition of a penalty. Not all ordinances are required to be placed in the newspaper, but there's a handful of them that are required to be.
And they're listed out right here, penalty, fine, or forfeiture.
Yes, those are the ones that are straight out of state law.
We can add to this.
But this is designed to meet the state law requirement. I
Yeah.
think you ought to leave it alone. If you want to do something else, then add something else in another paragraph.
Would like to add that this also be published on the city website.
We've taken care of that in another section, that ordinances will be posted on the city's website for at least a year, and unless earlier codified into the code of ordinances.
That's in 3.13, section 2.
And 6, we also have, the citizens also have a right to speak on the title and caption of ordinances.
That right is provided to persons in 3.10 of the charter.
Okay.
Same thing.
Donuts.
I think he wanted to speak.
Yeah.
I leave mine in the car. I just turn mine on silent.
401, Section 2.
Do we need to vote on any of these, or is this just a continuing? Okay.
Yeah, there's not been a motion made to make it.
We talked about this at length, and I still don't like an open-ended severance package available. I think that the salary should attract whoever we want, and then not to be planning on being paid for 6 months afterwards. I think 30 days. Any?
You know, when I was seeking a job as a city manager, in the initial interview, I never asked how much you're gonna pay me when you fire me. I don't know, I'm ambivalent over that. I was never fired. I have no idea what you're paying me.
Mr. Chair?
I do believe that can actually be, an ordinance change under personnel to have the city manager, follow all the leave, vacation and sick time requirements that any other employee. I know that I had mentioned that I'd like to get that added at some point, but I don't know if it's been done or not, and that would probably be the better venue than in the charter.
I agree that the sick leave and vacation absolutely should be paid, but
Yeah.
no more than 30 days of severance pay.
Oh, sorry, I misheard you. I thought you were talking about leaving.
Or none.
So that's 30 days plus vacation and sick leave.
Yeah, there's no obligation.
I don't think that should be under our description under this.
I think you leave it to the council.
Yeah, I think we should put the trust in the system of hiring and firing, how they're gonna work out a contract said. I don't believe that's something that we should deal with.
We don't have any idea of the circumstances that they're gonna encounter or anything else.
And that's how I feel about it.
I agree with that.
Okay.
Has anybody gotten any the feedback I got on severance was that it's a protection for our taxpayers. It still gives the council some negotiation power, and that we could look to clarify the severance, that it's not required or expected, but keep a cap for the taxpayer protections.
What I'm trying to do all the way through here is I want the charter to give some boundaries for the city council to work in, that the citizens approve of.
So when we first struck this out, and the discussion was it kind of hurts the negotiation powers during the contract negotiations, and they initially see that there is up to 6 months, so that's their first negotiation.
Could we put a top
Step right
number?
there.
Could we put a top number on it?
Do you not trust your elected officials to negotiate a package that's in the city's best interest?
Don't let me.
You don't know the circumstances, George. That's my point, is you don't know the circumstances that they're gonna encounter when they're trying to get rid of this person. And I just think we ought to leave the flexibility to them, and if you don't like what they do, kick them out.
I don't trust anybody.
Well, but I can't help that. You know, most of the world is not like that.
Anybody that believes that every federal politician is not corrupt, raise your hand. Everyone. My son is a county commissioner in a county here in Texas. I asked him, I said, why don't you run for state representative? You can win this. He said, Dad, you don't understand. If I go to that level and I don't play ball, my family is at risk. That's the lowest state thing there is. So I don't trust anybody. I like a bunch of the city councilmen, but I would like to have parameters that by charter they have to stay within.
I just don't think it's our job description for that.
It's a little detailed. I mean, personally, I think it's a little detailed, and then it just gives that person, oh, they'll give up to 6 months. That's my first request. That's my first contract, you know, and it could possibly get accepted at that. Where if it's not in there at all, there's no limit in there, there's no number in there, then they work blindly for a number, and then the city council actually has more, I feel like the city council has more negotiation room without that 6 months being there, because 6 months is gonna be the automatic first request. If I'm negotiating a contract, I'm gonna go in at the highest, and that's 6 months.
Ms. Jackson, perhaps you can help me here. I was told it was $175,000, and then I was told that part of that was vacation and sick leave. Do you recall what the breakdown was?
In the end, we roughly paid out an entire year of wages, roughly. Okay, I don't have numbers in front of me. There was 6 months of pay, plus all of the vacation, accrued vacation and sick time that had not been properly used or annotated. Blah, blah, blah. It ended up being almost a year of wages.
Okay, so it's basically, he got paid 6 months in 6 months.
Kind of.
To your point, he got the minimum that was set in there, so he used it against the city.
Okay, with that understanding, I'm okay with it.
Any other discussion? We need a motion or just, press
we're leaving
on?
it as it
Yeah,
is.
we leave that the
We're
way
just
it
having a
is.
discussion, we haven't changed anything.
And I'm really for going over these again and just making sure we made the right decisions.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And surely y'all have some in between these. 5.01,
4.01.
27 at the bottom.
the only thing I wanted here is I wanted the sample ballots to be posted on the city website. So that people will know what they're looking at when they go in there and start reading, or have to read, and they feel like they're pressured because there's somebody standing behind them or whatever.
Yes, ma'am.
All ballots are posted on the county website under the elections administration as required by law. If I'm, required by law as if memory serves. But they're on the website for the county under election administrations, every single election that they administer, which is all of ours. So that is already available on the county website. And we can point to it. That's an easy, I'm
Could
sure.
put it on the city or direct them to the county, is that what you're saying?
I'm sorry?
We could either put it on the website or we could direct them to the county website.
Yes. It'd probably be easier just to put a link on our website. Why duplicate everything? And I'm sure Tommy could probably do it in about 2.8 seconds. Here's the link. Because remember also, whenever we do an election, not everybody sees if I'm up for Ward 1, because they're not in Ward 1. There's 4 different ballots for every person in, for the city, because it's ward specific. So the more and more we have to put on our website that's already published somewhere else, we're just wasting megabytes and terabytes and eventually exabytes. And we don't have unlimited capacity. So it's much easier to say, if we direct, if at some point the city manager directs the IT department, put a link here. It takes 2 seconds. It's easy.
on the county, it would have everyone listed, is that?
Yeah. Everything.
I mean, isn't really the point that it's just available electronically somehow to everybody?
Yes.
So if it's already on the county election office's website, if somebody's interested in the election, I mean, that's where you go to find out the results of the election and every place else.
Well, now that the dumbest soldier in the Roman army knows it, I'm okay.
So, we're gonna leave this the way it is?
Sounds like it.
Are you satisfied?
Yes.
Okay.
Number 6, item number 6. I want an explanation of that.
6.1.
Yeah, where are you at, George?
6.14, do we have that one? It's right at the bottom of the page.
6.14 is on the top of page 32.
This basically explains that after a petition has been filed, that you can't double jeopardy and so forth. Is that what this is meaning?
So 6.14, number 1, there was nothing substantively changed from what was currently in the charter. The only changes that were made to 6.14 was to make it easier to read. So what it's saying that you can't recall somebody within their first 6 months in office. You cannot recall somebody if the petition, if within 6 months the petition was filed and found insufficient, and you cannot recall somebody within 1 year after an election of such officer's recall. So if someone was recalled and the recall petition failed, you cannot bring up another recall petition against them within a year. These are the same, this is currently what's in the charter. It was just split up for legibility and clarity.
Yeah, they took it from a sentence format to this bulleted format. It was just formatting.
Okay.
See what they did, Joe? All this used to just run out here, but they went in and put a colon and then they put A, B, and C. So that's the change they made there by just stringing this out.
Okay. 6.15. I'm sorry. 7.08.
Page 35.
Borrow it.
My objection was striking out anything on this page.
So, Mr. Chair, I've got some clarification on that one if you'd like. What you see on page 35 is what y'all voted on last time. Since the meeting last time, I forwarded this language that was recommended by the finance director to bond counsel to ensure compliance with our bond covenants, and he provided additional language which you will see on page 17 and 18. of your packet. The proposed change to 7.08, which is on page number 18 at the bottom there, was a recommendation by bond counsel.
I thought that you said it was against state statute for cities to borrow funds on the credit of the city for less than a year.
I don't know that to be true or not. But this is what bond counsel recommended. I don't, that's an area that I have not stuck my big toe in.
Really?
Yeah.
Is it possible to read this out loud? It's very hard to read.
The city shall have the right to issue and refund general obligation bonds, revenue bonds, and other evidence of indebtedness as it is now permitted or as may be hereafter authorized to be issued by home rule municipality in the state of Texas. The city may borrow funds on the credit of the city for a term not to exceed 1 year, provided such obligations are scheduled to be retired at the end of the budget year which they are issued.
Section 7.8, the way I read it, as currently in the statute, in the charter, is basically just a general grant of authority to borrow in compliance with state law. And the language that was provided by bond counsel reiterates that in 2 sentences versus 185.
They consolidated and have the same language.
There's no difference in your ability to borrow
Right.
after this language is changed.
Is there any provision where the citizens have power to say you can't borrow this or you can borrow this? Where would that be addressed?
In the Public Finance Act.
Okay, it's addressed, I'm good.
Do you want
7.1.
I'm sorry.
Good, sorry, sir.
Yeah, so if y'all like the language that bond counsel has proposed, y'all can,
I'll move that section 708 be.
Not in accordance with the Open Meetings Act. Their attendees are not allowed to debate with the commissioners. I'm sorry, you're saying?
I was trying to prepare a motion that section 708 be additionally amended or amended as provided to us as recommended by bond counsel.
I have a motion, do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Motion and a second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed say no.
Abstain.
My son, I'm sorry.
She abstained.
I'm sorry, didn't get that option.
7.13. My question is, why 5 years? What would you like, George? If you had somebody working for you, how often do you audit them? How often would you want to see their books? I have a couple of employees and they have one credit card and they gotta bring me receipts every day.
So this is not for bookkeeping purposes. This is for the audit, the annual audit of the city, which is required to be done annually. Normally, you go out for audit, or you get new bids every 5 years because of the fact that to go from one audit 1 year to the next audit, the following year, using the same firm, normally results in a better price, because they don't have to relearn everything.
If you're dissatisfied with that auditor,
This is, the 5 years is in the charter currently, and there was no recommended changes from the finance director on that.
So it's common that it's a 5-year period usually,
Yes, absolutely.
I don't
not
think,
3, not 2,
I don't
but
think
5.
this says it's a 5-year contract. It just says the contract shall be reviewed. It could be an annual contract.
Right.
doesn't say
But you're
that.
gonna review it every 5 years to see if you need to do something about it.
Okay.
That's the way I read it.
I mean, it provides just reconsideration of the agreement.
It says you're gonna review it, you're gonna look at it every 5 years. It doesn't say anything about being able to terminate someone at,
Well, it doesn't prohibit you. I mean, you can always fire the auditor if you don't like what they're doing. They got a 1-year contract or 2 years.
they have a 5-year
This is
contract.
forcing us to do it every 5 years, instead of letting it go on for 10 or 15 or whatever. There's, at a minimum, we have to go out every 5 years.
But you still can't get rid of him after 2 years if he's doing a poor job.
There's gonna be an out in every contract.
It depends on what the contract says.
I'm just reading what I see.
But George, that doesn't say it's a 5-year contract. It says they'll review the contract at the end of 5 years. They could have a 2-year contract
Which could be looked at in 2 years.
in 2 years, but they have
This
to
is
look
no,
at it
you
at least
cannot
every
pass the
5
5
years.
years.
I understand, but it doesn't say that anywhere in here. It doesn't say that they have a 1-year, 2-year, 3-year contract. It says it'll be reviewed after 5 years.
Yeah, the contract will be reviewed, whatever the term may be.
I have to see the contract before.
So you want more clarity somehow, some sort of language that's not clear enough for you.
That's correct.
Start thinking.
I would like to say that contracts would be reviewed every 2 years. You can give them a 5-year contract, but they can be reviewed for every 2 years.
How about any time prior? I mean, do you really want to go that far?
That would be good. That would be better.
How does that work in language? I don't know. I'm trying to make a suggestion.
Could be reviewed at request of city council.
Which someone's gonna do anyway if they're not happy with somebody.
I just wanted to say that they could terminate the contract, and I don't see it saying here.
Right,
It's
I
5
mean,
years
It
you're-
says you shall review it in 5 years. It doesn't say you can't review prior to that. It just says you shall within 5 years. So if you review annually, or you review biannually, or triannually, you can do that.
But no further past 5 years. It
Correct.
must
I understand.
happen.
I'm not worried about after 5 years. I'm
Maybe
concerned.
the language we're looking for here is a maximum of 5 years.
Yeah, like shall be reviewed and or reconsidered no less than a 5-year period.
No greater.
I'm sorry, this is one where, how is that language not clear with respect to that?
I agree. It says what it says and it's covering everything we're discussing, but nobody wants to bring it all in as one. It is saying exactly what you're asking for.
I agree.
I think you're dissecting it a little too hard. Seriously.
Let's not forget that the charter is our constitution, but the city council still has the ability to do.
Okay, let's put that in there. Let's say at the end of 5 years, However, the city council has the authority to review at their will.
It says that already.
Where does it say that, sir?
It says they shall
Reviewed and
review
reconsidered.
and reconsider at the end of 5 years.
That's what I say. I don't want it to be that 5 years. They could do it at any time. They definitely will do it at 5 years, but they gives them
So
right.
give me the sentence you would like it to say, Mr. Webb.
It can be just like it is, say 5 years. However, the city council will have the option to review and take action at any time.
George, they already have that right. You haven't provided anything they don't already have.
Well, let's do it
Nobody's
this
showing
way.
it to me.
Mr. Webb, would you like to make that into a motion?
Yes, I would.
Is there a second to that motion?
I didn't hear the motion.
Says that 5 years, however, the city council will have the authority to audit and take action at any time.
I'll second that. There's a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no.
No.
No,
No.
Okay.
it's 3 against 2.
Who were the two that voted in favor of the motion?
That one and this one.
Well, he
He made the
seconded it.
motion,
thought
I
he had to
seconded
vote
it.
for
No, I
it.
voted no on the
Okay, so
There was
the
one.
motion
One to
and a
four.
second, and then it was a 4-1 vote.
Correct.
Thank you, that's what I wanted to clarify.
Next.
Do we give purpose why we voted something down too?
I'm sorry?
Do we give purpose why we voted something down too?
No, ma'am, that's
just
this is the
approval.
language that's already been voted upon.
Okay, just
which has-
approval. Okay.
Which has a purpose.
10.01. I absolutely believe that we should not dismiss the Planning and Zoning Committee. They are a very important part of the public's right. The public gets to speak at the Planning and Zoning Committee meetings once or twice. Then the recommendations go to City Council and you get to speak once or twice again. This takes away a lot of the rights. I've been through this, and it's just very necessary for the public to be able to put out their side of planning and zoning issues.
So may I address that, Mr. Webb, Commissioner
Sure.
Webb? And with all due respect, I don't mean to disagree with you because I think that the public input in the process is necessary. That's all done statutorily, and that's all statutorily required. All Section 10 does is it removes it from the charter, from the ability to have it in the charter, and moves it into City Council is going to have to make a decision and is going to be compelled to create a P&Z by ordinance. State law already requires that a P&Z be created. And all this does is that it removes it from the charter and makes the City Council adopt it and create it by ordinance. And that was actually part of the motion in its removal was by the commission to have a replacement ordinance in order for it to be adopted. For instance, the 10.01 currently requires that there be seven board members. It's very common for your planning and zoning commission to have the same number of people as your city council. Currently, the city council has no discretion in changing the number of people from 7 down to 5 because it's in your charter at 7. But if you had the ordinance that allowed that allowed you to make that change, then you could do that. No rights under 211 or Chapter 43 of the local government code can be abridged by this removal. those rights are there, they're in state law.
So we're looking to delete this, the verbiage on the P and Z because at some future date, somewhere, somehow, the city council is gonna make an ordinance and thereby redo the, planning and zoning commission. Is that what we're saying?
Doesn't say that.
That's what our recommendation is, that we decided on last time we met, is that we would recommend, that the commission would recommend the ordinance be adopted prior to the replacement of this article.
Yes, okay. And,
Yeah, basically, we made it a little bit more stringent, like, we don't wanna see that they're requesting to remove Article 10 unless we're seeing some type of ordinance at the same time, and then there was a discussion about a gap in the period as well. So right now, the citizens have rights because of this charter, and if it goes into ordinance, city council can change the ordinance.
So to that point, section 211.007 of the Texas Local Government Code provides to exercise the powers authorized by this subchapter, which is the zoning chapter, the governing body of a home rule municipality, where a home rule municipality shall, meaning no discretion, appoint a zoning commission. Its placement in the charter has absolutely nothing to do with the city council's requirement to have a planning and zoning commission.
so my concern's been that we would have a gap between the city council accepting this change to the charter and whenever the ordinance comes about.
Believe me, with shot clock and the way things go at P and Z, this council is not gonna go without a P and Z for more than 30 days.
30 seconds, I don't wanna do that job, sorry. So you point people to that board.
And again, we're just making the recommendation, they can still take this, not take the recommendation.
So they could strike it out and not take the
Absolutely.
Well,
They could strike it out.
I
saying
know what a
yeah.
dirty job it is. I know Ms. Jackson is correct. I believe I was offered that job.
It's also gonna go to voters, like the process is, if city council adopts either way to say we need an ordinance prior to striking this at any time, or city council decides to go ahead and strike this and put it on the ballot, it goes on the ballot, and the voters would still decide if they want section 10 in there or not,
That's what I wanted.
yeah.
Thank you.
And that's the way this whole process is going to work.
10.03.
I feel like we sent a message by adding that verbiage last week, by making that motion, Mark. I think we sent a message to the city council when they deliberate that we don't want to get rid of.
That's what our intent was by adding that.
Yeah, well, actually, that request came from the city council as, to do this.
It came from me.
Or a suggestion.
And we're saying,
You're
before you
it.
take it out, you better get your ordinance adopted.
You're it, Kate, you're it.
And please assume, which is true, is I've already started writing a draft ordinance.
Still gotta get
So
it
there's
passed.
Because I believe in CYA. This city will not be without a P and Z, period, end of statement.
I don't think it can be.
No, it can't by law, we won't let it happen anyway. Just I don't want the job.
Yeah.
That's a whole nother conversation.
So, going forward, this is, again, we're just making the recommendations, and we're doing it for the people, that goes to the council, and it goes from there, so all we can do is our best.
We did the same request with the comprehensive plan before they
Correct.
take it out, that they adopt by ordinance the comprehensive plan.
So
So
where are we at
that's
now?
all we can do with that.
103.
103. Just had this discussion, we're just changing the title.
Right.
With respect to the comprehensive plan, if I could address that, Mr. Chairman, Section 78-1 of the Rockport Code of Ordinances adopts the comprehensive plan. Its removal from this section's removal from the city charter has nothing to do with the city's already previous adoption of the comprehensive plan.
I don't have any more.
So we can move forward, everybody's accepting that as is?
Yes.
We're good. Next.
No one else has any questions throughout the whole 1 through 12?
I think we beat it up pretty damn good.
When I write somebody a letter and it goes away, and then it comes back in 6 months, I say, yeah, that's what I said, that's what I meant. Additional input is always fine, but I think we went through this pretty thoroughly, first time around.
For the committee's, knowledge, just part of the conversation I had this weekend with some of the constituents of Ward 2, specific to the comprehensive plan, they're wanting to see, a shorter version posted as well, so it was just part of, just to say, you know, we discussed it, so I don't see where that would be really in the charter. I think it would be in
That's more of a
the
prerogative.
ordinance, yeah.
That's more a prerogative of the council.
Yeah, the ordinance.
Yeah, that's still high
So-
on my list, don't worry about it.
But they were just saying, you know, if they posted two different ones and if there was two versions, a short version and a long version of the comprehensive plan. And I said that really didn't fall in line with the charter, so. But just to know where discussions were this weekend.
Mr. Ortiz, I have a question. Sovereign immunity. I know some cases that's been used, and people lost cases without looking at the merit whatsoever. And the other night, you said, well, you can sue on this item. What makes the difference between something that's gonna fall under sovereign immunity and one that can be prosecuted?
So the city does not have sovereign immunity. It has what's called, not to be put too fine a point on it, the city has what's called governmental immunity. And basically what that does is it insulates the city from suits for acts that are non-ministerial acts. So for instance, if it's if a city is doing its job and there is a suit, unless it's accepted under the Texas Tort Claims Act, the city cannot be sued under that provision. It's a rather complex law, section of the law that I could probably go 3 hours on and probably not cover it all.
The facts of that case that I know about is this place was ready to open up for business, ready to turn the electricity on and start working. The city came in and said, oh no, the elevation's not high enough. They raised everything 8 inches, which made it in the compliance. Then the Heritage Committee came along and said it doesn't match with the local area. And it got turned down on governmental or sovereign, whatever you want to call it. I don't understand that.
Okay.
Okay, do you?
Yeah, I mean, in that case, the city has the ability to enforce its ordinances. I don't know the facts of the case well enough to be able to determine what was done in that case. If you give me the case citation, I can go and read it, and I can probably explain it to you better.
There's no ordinance that says that the Heritage Committee could recommend something, and that's not a law.
Okay, if you provide me this case citation, I can look that up.
And he's gonna charge us by the hour,
Do
just letting you know.
So,
we need to have a motion on these gender neutral changes that
Yes,
Ms.
sir.
Townsend whined
Yes,
about?
I would ask for that, yes, please, but
I would
also-
move that we adopt the gender neutral changes that Ms. Townsend recommended and proposed to the charter.
Second.
I
Oh,
Motion-
thank you all
Now
very
we
much.
can discuss it.
The three males over there, thank you very much. Are you okay with this?
Discussion.
Say yes.
Okay, thank you
Okay,
so
all-
much. We're all women.
All in
Here.
favor, say yes.
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 Yes, aye, thank you. But there was something that I did not get to speak on tonight, which was that 3.10.
3.10,
Yes,
It's on page 20.
21 on your little packet. I'm gonna put this out here, I know not everybody's gonna be happy about it, but let's just take last night. City council, what time did they get out last night?
10:30, 10 o'clock, probably,
And they had how many agenda items?
38.
38, and a person will have the public will have a chance to speak on every agenda item according to this for 3 minutes, up to 9. Let's just hypothetically say that there was 6 people, so 6 times 3 per agenda, per the night, it's now 1 AM. Do you understand where I'm going on this?
Yeah, I thought it was excessive to start with.
Yeah,
This means a lot of people were unhappy.
understood, but to be heard, there's lots of different ways to be heard, not just that night, isn't there? I mean, there's other ways to be, yeah, put your comment, excuse me, okay? Did I miss this?
No, I said it before the meeting started.
Okay, I heard you do that. I just thought maybe I was reading something new, sorry. Okay, my concern is just not saying nobody should work late hours, we do in our own ways, and I don't think it shouldn't be that the public shouldn't be heard. It's just, I think, again, if you have 6 to 8 people per agenda item, how are we gonna get the work done other than just listening? There's no discussion, there's no time for any of that. All of a sudden, the meeting's over. Now what?
Could we have some number, 3 perhaps? And the other people that want to speak would say which side they were on and say we have 3 people in favor of this also that wanted to speak, but because of our time
You mean
restraints,
as a group, like saying they all have the same opinion, and that way it's considered one
multiplied by
opinion out
3 or
of
6 or
5?
whatever, pro or con.
I don't know, but I mean, again, we're recommending this to the city council. They have the right to shoot it down or not. Again, it's a recommendation. I'm just trying to say, how can it be within fairness of the whole process? Yes, ma'am.
It does say explicitly in the Open Meetings Act, and Arnold, correct me if Mr. Rodriguez will correct me if I'm wrong, is it says that every citizen has the right to speak, period, end of statement. No ifs, ands, buts, clauses, changes. Every citizen has the right to speak, so you cannot say, well, does anybody else agree with this? Okay, then you don't have to talk. We're not allowed to do that. That would be one of those examples where we could be taken to court. So,
But I guess what I'm asking you at this point, is that prior to, like, citizens to be heard, just as we open the meeting? Now, most places don't even allow you to speak again after that, you know, throughout the process of the night, because they've been heard. If you look at other city councils, it doesn't happen.
well,
I never,
and once again, Mr. Rodriguez, correct me if I'm wrong, is if I do believe that it does say that they have to be given a reasonable amount of time to be heard, and that's it. There's no specifics to that. They have to be given reasonable time to be heard. And that it is up to the city council, if I remember correctly, to determine what that is.
well, and
That's why we're
what-
wondering why it's in
I
this
know
charter.
exactly what that says, I hear it every council meeting.
Yeah.
Okay, so going back to what Mr. Webb said, we cannot, period, end of statement, we cannot say, okay, who else agrees with what this person says? Okay, you don't have to talk now. We cannot do that.
No, that can't be.
I was trying to
We cannot.
some authority with what they were speaking and get you to be able to go home earlier.
It's not even about
We
just
went to
getting home
10:30 last
earlier.
night, and that was how long it took.
But if you had had someone able to speak on each agenda up to 3 minutes, 9 total throughout the night, How much would you think you would have gotten accomplished?
Oh, nothing. Now, the thing is, once again, I'm sure Mr. Rodriguez will correct me if I'm wrong, the city council says that.
Okay.
Not according to what they've adopted.
Okay,
That's right.
well,
This will,
but, I mean, we can adopt, okay, I can't speak for all of us, I can only speak for me.
Right.
But we have direction from y'all, and that's the direction we have, so then we have to work within that direction, because that's in the charter,
If you approve it,
if we approve it.
right.
If we say, okay, we want this to go and be in the election. I don't know. I know how I feel. I don't know how the other four feel, because we're not allowed to talk to each other about things like this,
Right.
except in an actual meeting, which everybody gets to talk at. So,
I think just maybe a little more limited is all I guess I'm trying to say, opposed to 3 minutes per agenda per everything. I mean, wow.
there's a million options that can be looked at. Okay, and this is not the place, because, well, it's just me. And otherwise, we have to have an agenda for all 5 city council people to be here.
Well, you're gonna have that discussion no matter what,
Yes,
so
it's gonna happen, it's just not gonna happen today.
how do you feel? How do y'all feel?
I was fine with it the way it was before we added the language, let the council set their own rules.
That
Because
was
there may be
proposed.
some items that they want to allow agendas and
Right.
others not. Give them the flexibility to set their own rules for the meeting.
So I think we should put this back as it was, not as it is.
It doesn't make any difference because they're going to do what they want to do anyhow, so
But they can't.
they can do anything because it's a recommendation.
Leaving this in, and we send this to the election, and the people say yes to this change, then that means that the city council then has to take that clause and apply it.
Yeah.
But thank you that there is not a whole bunch of restriction on that.
But
There's
if we
still
take
all
it,
kinds of room in there for us to more than meet this.
but if we take it out, then you just adopt your own rules for
As-
whether you
as-
want.
you
As
need
they've
it.
been since when we got home rule charter.
Yeah, but with this change, you will have to change your rules.
Yes, but then we have to change our rules to meet that, and that's fine, because the citizens have spoken. And this is what they want. Roger, copy. You know, there's not 5 people that sit up there and rule. We listen to the citizens and we make decisions from there as best we can. We're all fallible. But this is something we can work with easily. And it's not as restrictive. Yes, we could end up going till 2 o'clock in the morning every single night if we let every single person talk. You know what? That's their right. I can't remove their rights.
All right, well then we'll leave it at that.
Mr. Chairman. He's been there.
I announced before the meeting started that there's no discussion between the attendees and the members, so you put your hand up.
So we're gonna leave that alone?
Is that what we want to do,
decided?
leave it alone?
I would like to see it limited a little bit more, but they're gonna choose, I guess, so it's up to y'all if you wanna vote differently or leave it as is.
I want to leave it as it is. They'll make up their minds what they want to do on every one of these anyhow.
Yeah, they get to, this doesn't set like a time limit, so they can still set time limits, it's not limited to that 3 minutes or 9 minute total. Like, city council can still set time limits, but this is just allowing where the discussion starts in the middle, during the meeting. If a citizen has something to add to that.
I don't see any use in changing it because
Yeah.
it's a suggestion. And they can do what they wish, what they think is best.
Let's not lose fact that we're an advisory board. And this is going to the city council, and the city council will do what the city council wants to do. But we're giving them our opinion, but there's
Exactly.
nothing binding on what we do here.
Exactly. So it wouldn't hurt anything to leave it as it is.
All right, so moving forward.
Leave it as is? No? Yes? Okay.
Is that it?
Oh, please.
That it?
I don't have anything else
I'd like to discuss 3.01 with term limit.
What page?
2020. So previously in our discussions, we were talking about the loophole that there was still the opportunity for folks to serve because of this word consecutive. That there's a gap of any period of time, and then they could serve again because of this word consecutive. So we chose to remove the stipulation altogether for the term limit. I got a lot of feedback that we should look at clarifying the gap for the loophole and not get rid of the term limit, that there's several pros to keeping the term limit, such as being able to recruit volunteers for the positions because they know that it's not a forever type of term, like there is some type of limitation to their term. They don't want to serve forever, but they'll serve a certain period. And having a term limit gives them the option of not quitting, so that if it comes up, they're not quitting, it's their 10-year period is coming up, right? And they're not looking like they're quitting, but they're terming out, right? Also,
I'm not gonna run for reelection.
I'm termed
It
out.
makes it
Right? So I was asked to come up with clarity verbiage on closing the loophole gap, like saying that there has to be a 1 or 2 full year term before they can run for an election for another position or run for re-election.
I thought we went over this.
I know we went over this, but I just got a lot of feedback on that, and so I wanted to bring it back up. Especially, like, I'm not gonna be here next week to speak for Ward 2, so I'm really making it a point to speak for it tonight. That Ward 2 constituents really wanted to see a 1 or 2 year gap stipulated before they could rerun and keep a term limit.
My position is that the voters are supreme, and when there's something on the ballot and they say yes, then that's what they want, and when they say no, that's what they want. And if somebody's been there for 10 years, and they say, gee, old Bill has been doing us a good job, we want to put him back in. He started when he was 29, he's not an old man. I think this voter should be supreme, and they decide.
That was another point that came up, was that we have low voter turnout, and that the true intent might not, I can't really speak to it, but that was another fact.
So then you want, because we have low voter turnout, you want a few people to be able to dictate who's gonna stay in office so they can run somebody against it.
I think the opposite.
No, I think that's exactly the point.
Yeah.
I don't think we need to change it. I think
Yeah,
it needs to be
I'll
the
move
way
we
it
leave
is.
it alone.
Remove the term limit.
Just leave it as it
Leave
is,
it alone.
as we've said on this particular 3.01.
So just to be official, just for the record, so I would like to make a motion for 3.01 section D, no person shall serve more than 10 consecutive years with a 2-year, let me make sure I word that correctly, with a 2-year gap before they can rerun for any city council position.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All favor in the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say no.
No.
No. Noes have it, 3-2.
I mean, they already have to sit out 2 years, because if they go out, they're elected for 2-year terms, are they not?
Yes.
So if a council member, here's the thing, if a council member, is coming up on the way that's written right now, right? The council member's coming up on the end of their term, and their intent is to rerun, right? They can drop out, they can, what do you call it, like quit 2 months before the election, 6 months before the election. And then they can rerun. And if there's nobody to contest, to run against them, it's automatic. That's the way that it is right now. There's loopholes.
I'm good with them.
Yeah. Or if they move different wards, or the district line changes.
Beating a dead horse.
Well, I'm just stating.
She's just talking about what her people are talking about, so.
I know, and I know who said it.
It's okay. We're gonna move on, yes?
Are we
Are
done?
we fired?
Anybody else?
Severance pay.
Any
Escalate.
other discussion from the commission members?
Anything for next week?
So the
Excuse me?
the draft,
About 6.
final report will be generated and circulated to y'all as soon as possible and posted on the website. And next meeting will begin with the public hearing, and then the final report will be for y'all to review and consider as the final version to submit to the city council.
How long is this public hearing gonna last?
I'm sorry?
How long is this public hearing at this meeting gonna last next time?
As many people as show up.
Well, I'm not elected, and I ain't gonna sit here till 10:30 at night, to be real honest with you.
When you get to when you're paddling out, just go like this and stumble out the door.
Yeah.
That's all you have to do.
Just say, I need to take my Imodium and I'm out.
Well, this was part-
The resolution creating the charter commission provider required one public hearing.
Okay.
We'll have a quorum.
Can we set rules for that hearing as to,
You've set rules already for
can we
3
amend
minutes.
those rules?
That's what I was
You can-
discussing,
No, but these are the rules for our commission.
correct?
Can we amend them now?
Well, it's not on the agenda now, but we can place an item on the agenda for next time if you want to discuss amendment of your public comment rules for the
Like I said, it's gonna be
It's
a long
on
one.
public hearing.
So we can't discuss it tonight.
Yeah, but it can be on the agenda
It can
for
be on
next
the agenda.
meeting, so let's,
So that's the
I can- we
the
can place that on
21st,
there.
correct?
okay,
Yes.
let's do that.
Right.
And then what's the next one after that? We're done.
That's it.
That's
Tomorrow-
it.
That's, next week, we're done.
Okay.
And then it goes to the city council in January.
Did you say we have one more meeting, two more meetings?
So I'm getting my
We're
gallbladder
anticipating the
out
next
on
meeting is the
23rd.
last of this
Good
commission.
shape.
So what if next week there's a big turnout and a lot of people are speaking to change a few of these? Are y'all going to set up another meeting to look at those? Or are you gonna change them on the spot? Or like discuss them on the spot to revise any, and so that next week will be initial recommendations still for the public to discuss, to give their input on. And then any of those that pass are our final recommendations to city council. But if the public comes in and wants to,
They have that right when it goes to vote.
Yeah, I guess that's what I'm trying to figure out is what is the real purpose of this? I mean, we get to hear comments, but city council will also hear those comments. So do we need to do anything other than submit our recommendations
That's
and
all
let
we're
the
doing,
council?
correct?
Yeah,
We're not making changes or challenges or any of that next week. It's all being heard from the public, which they all absorb here, and they take it with them, I'm assuming. Am I right or wrong?
So the public hearing is gonna give you an opportunity to, before you make a vote on the final version to go to city council, the public is gonna have an opportunity to express their views on what the work you've done
Okay,
so far. And a motion could be made, there could be several different motions. Motion to adopt the final, a motion to have another meeting in the future, or a motion to approve with changes A, B, C, and D included in that final, in the final report to the city council. Y'all have multiple options in which to take in the public comments and then forward that on to city council.
so as of next week, we can change also during that?
Yes, you will.
Throughout the meeting?
You
And
will.
then the final will go off?
Ms.
We'll
Jackson,
decide the final next
is-
week.
you have the rule for city council that you have to listen to everyone. That doesn't apply to the committee, is that correct or not?
Oh, yes, it does.
There,
You
well,
guys are also governed by the Open Meetings Act.
we know that, but we don't have to allow everybody to have 9 minutes to speak.
Well, we said that early on. That's why,
That's why I said, can we amend it, put it on the agenda to change?
correct. That was part of my reasoning of bringing up what I did tonight.
I think it's smart to add it to the agenda for next week, and if you have a very large group of people, limit it to 1 to 2 minutes. You know,
Your-
like, we've
your
heard some
current
really
rule-
good points. We've heard some really good points, you know, in that amount of time.
Your current rules provide for a 3-minute per item. The public hearing is going to give them 3 minutes maximum.
With a total of,
Total of 9 minutes for the agenda, but 3 minutes per item, and the public hearing will be an item.
So then where does the 9 minutes come in? You're saying it won't apply?
So let's take what's on the agenda, as an example.
Yep.
So you've got 3 minutes for citizens to be heard, then someone could then take another 3 minutes for item number 4, another 3 minutes for item number 5, and then that person would then be prohibited from speaking any further.
because they hit the 9-minute mark.
Okay, so you're saying our agenda next meeting will be public hearing? That's it?
It'll be citizens' comments, number 1.
Then we'll finalize.
Number 2 will be the public hearing on the final, and then the last item, well, I don't know for sure it's gonna be this, but it will likely be the final discussion, possible action on the final report to be submitted to the city council.
Well, then 3 minutes is great, because it'll be 3 minutes for the final.
It's, the way I read
You
it, it's
know.
3 minutes for the public hearing and then 3 minutes on the final action.
Yes, and y'all can amend these, because people will have an opportunity to already speak at the public hearing,
I'm
to
corrected.
suspend the comments for the remainder of the agenda if you want.
Yeah,
Okay,
if new people show up, I think it'd be
Why don't we
great
see how
to hear them.
well, we're only talking about a future agenda item, so we
Right.
have to put it on the agenda next time so that we can adopt it prior to the public hearing, I'm assuming.
Right.
Well, then what's the purpose of the public hearing?
Well, how long do you want them to be able to talk 9 minutes?
Yeah,
Okay.
I do too. So, I want them to have their say.
yeah. The citizens have a right to express their opinion. Now, we've set up ways to do that, but, yeah, if 30 people show up, each of them has
We'll
3
put the
minutes.
item on for discussion.
They don't have 3 minutes, they have 9
They have 9,
Oh, yeah, that's true. They have 9.
so you
because
just
of-
gave them 3 hours
to sit here.
as opposed to going back to 3 minutes.
I would not change the citizens be heard. I
You
really
can make a motion, but you're gonna get voted down maybe. Oh,
Don't forget you
I've
have the
got,
opportunity.
I've got voted down several times, and it's okay.
So,
We'll bring an item for.
Bring an item on the
discussion
agenda.
At the next agenda.
I ain't scared to get voted down, George.
all right,
I get turned down a
you
lot.
adjourn.
I can. With no further discussion, meeting's adjourned.
Oh, no, it's just,
Oh, I'm sorry.
there's no motion for that.
Time, sir.
Time?
Time.
1906.
What does it say?
1906, 7:06.
Yeah, 7:06.
Thank you, sir.
Hey, Mark, I wanna let you know there were